You're now listening to the Insight BBL Show with your hosts, Brain and Horse.
Yes, hello and welcome back. And we've got some fireworks in the background there from the Horse. How you going, mate? Another team preview.
Oh, can't wait, mate. This talking cricket just excites me. I've been bored. Footy's been done for a little bit. It's a bit of a quiet part of the season. We've got some NBA, but I love my BBL. Let's get cracking.
That's it. Let's rip into some cricket. It's nice. It smells like leather out there, like cricket ball leather. And we're here to talk about the Brisbane Heat, the reigning premiers from BBL 13. Very interesting squad, this one. We'll give you our predicted 11. We'll talk through the ins and outs for the Brisbane Heat. And we'll give you our guns, the guys that you need to look at or consider. We'll look at the value, the cheapies, and also the players that will be fading to start the season anyway. So before that, we've already done the write-ups on every single team so far up until now. So we've gone through in depth and looked at our predicted 11 and done a bit of a write-up on each player too. So you can go and check that out in the Patreon. And if you want to become an Insight Unlimited or a Patreon member, you should check this out.
Want to take your Supercoach game to the next level? Insight Fantasy Sports are bringing you exclusive content all year round, such as weekly expert Q&As, team, trade, and captaincy advice, statistical deep dives, priority podcast questions, and tons more. So what are you waiting for? Get full access to the experts. Go to patreon.com/Insight Fantasy Sports and subscribe to Insight Unlimited today.
Said it well, didn't he? Couldn't have done better. But if you don't want to and you don't want to subscribe or become a member, that's completely fine. We're still going to keep coming to you with all these episodes and plenty of content throughout the preseason anyway. But hit that subscribe button. Just do us a favour. Now, let's talk ins and outs for the Brisbane Heat, Horse. Bit going on. Not in the ins column, though. They've only got Tom Alsop across. So it's been pretty quiet on the ins. Yeah,
it has been. But some key outs. Jordan Buckingham, we've seen lately crossing to the Adelaide Strikers, a good young bowler, good young quick. Josh Brown, who had hit that amazing century last year. Sam Billings, who's very, very underrated on his way to the Thunder. And Charlie Wakim back down to the Hobart Hurricanes.
Yeah, it's I'd say everybody who's leaving the Brisbane Heat has a role to play somewhere, I think, this year. I think even Charlie Wakem, I think there's a chance, and we'll talk about the Hurricanes in the next episode, actually, where there is a chance in round one that he could find some game time. So good to see these guys all getting opportunity. But Tom Alsop, he comes across from England. He's usually that kind of 5, 6, 7 middle order bat. And a backup wicket keeper as well. So, they've come out very openly and talked about Tom Alsop as that backup wicketkeeper. So they've very clearly made him a backup wicketkeeper, which is interesting. It maybe tells us something about who the plans are to be the keeper. Maybe they're leaning into Jimmy Pearson again this year to become the wicketkeeper for the Heat. So, some interesting comments there, but not a ton of movement. Really, nothing really that's impacting this predicted 11. So why don't we rip into this one, Horse? Colin Munro up the top starts things off.
Yeah, he does. Just one of the best bat-only options that we've got in Supercoach. But as we've both said, bat-only sort of scares us both a little bit. Jimmy Pearson, we predict, will start with the gloves. Nathan McSweeney, this is pending how he goes in the Australia A clash and whether he gets picked for Australia in the Test series. Matt Renshaw, Tom Alsop, we've slipped into 5. Tall Paul, one of the better BBL players from last year, at 6. Michael Nessa, we've seen what he's been doing in the Australia A game, at 7. Xavier Bartlett at 8. He's over 200K at the moment, believe it or not. Spencer Johnson at 9. Swepson at 10. And Kuhneman at 11.
Not much changes really, aside from the fact that obviously Tom Alsop, we probably predict that he comes into this team. That again, some comments have been made around him. If he has been good enough, he'll keep his spot regardless of when, Khawaja and Labuschagne comes back. Obviously, we've left them out of this squad on purpose because they won't be playing until about round 7. So this is obviously a round 1 predicted 11. But with Nathan McSweeney, obviously, in the conversation, Horse, to be the next test opener for Australia, do you see there maybe Max Bryant or someone like that coming in to bat at number 3? Because that's probably the guy that I'd look at.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's batted. I think he's batted 4 in the past, and when he has been used, he's been batting at 5 and 6, and I think higher up the order probably suits him a little bit more with the pace coming onto the ball a little bit. Yeah, pace coming on the bat. Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously Nathan McSweeney's cheap enough as it is, and if he ends up playing at 93k, he's a fantastic option too. And we'll probably talk about him soon. But if he is out, I think it's going to be Max Bryant who takes that role, and everybody just sits where they are, and it's a swap, a like for like number 3. So, mate, what about the guns in this squad? There's 2 that really stand out for me. One was a cult hero from last year.
Yep, Paul Walter, the POM, 187k. He is 6'7", but he's one of the better or the most likable characters that we have in the BBL, isn't he? Bowls well, bowls death, fields at long on, so he fields at dangerous position, safe as houses hands. I like him, but not to start, not at 187k with the singles.
No, the schedule probably doesn't permit you to pick a guy like Walter initially. Like, you are targeting those guys on doubles, and the Brisbane Heat unfortunately don't have a double until round 3. So it makes it tough for you to lean into too many Brisbane Heat players, unfortunately. Obviously, we talked about the strikers in the last video, and the reason why we're talking about so many of them as options is because they've got a round 2 and 4 double. So you can lean into a few of these guys knowing you're going to get the schedule that's going to suit them. But yeah, for the Brisbane Heat, I think I'd be waiting until round 3 to jump on too many. There might be a cheapie or 2 in this lineup that we can look at to start with to free up some cash elsewhere. But yeah, I think Paul Walter, and the other gun in this team is Michael Nisa, 175k. He just he took some wickets this morning, I think, in the Australian A game as well.
More in the opening first hour and a half.
There you go, against India A, wasn't it? So we know what Nisa can do. We know he's also a gun in the field. He's probably going to be, I think he's predicted to be in the top 5 fielders this year on our end, because he's fielding those hot spots on the boundary at the back end of the innings. And, you just add that to already some awesome death bowling options, and a guy that's probably going to be able to hit the ball pretty far at 7 or 8 too. So, for me.
We remember last year with Nessa, he had the pending Australia A.
PM's 11,
playing, and then the birth of his child. So everything was a bit up in the air, and he had a bit going on. He's coming into this season fresh. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do, and I predict him to be one of the better players in BBL this season.
I think he will be probably the most purchased, if not the second most purchased in round 3. Obviously, the Stars are back on the double. I think it is in round 3. So, there's going to be, hopefully most teams will already have a ton of stars in. You're not going to need to chase too many others. I think Heat will be the team to chase in round 3. And I think Walter and Nisa are the 2 guys that you're going to be looking at, just not to start the year. Unfortunately, you want to target those doubles to start. But, mate, what about the value picks and the guys that you can see potentially making a little bit of coin, or at least maybe outperforming their cash that they start at?
I think Nathan McSweeney is one of them, pending, of course, whether he gets picked in the Australia squad. At 93k, I know we talk about bat-onlys and fading them because there's only one side of the game that they play, I guess, and they don't bowl, and fielding-wise, they might get a couple of extra points with catches and whatnot. But at 93k for a quality batsman, that's way unders.
I think so as well. Any sub 100k when you can get that kind of value. Nathan McSweeney showed it last year in patches, as well. He, I think there was a game where he scored 70 odd runs with the bat, not Supercoach points. So I think 93k is really nice. The other guy I'm probably looking at is Jimmy Peirson, and it all depends for me on where he bats. If they use him at the top and they use him to open the batting, I think he's tremendous value. He's been a captain of this squad in previous seasons. Last year, he seemed to be out of favour because Sam Billings obviously had the gloves, and they were just trying to find the right dynamic for this squad. But with Sam Billings now moving on, this presents pretty much the ultimate position for Jimmy Peirson to come back into the squad. He's also recently just hit 100 in Shield cricket, so he's hitting the ball quite nicely as well. So definitely a guy that's in good form in November. Going to have the gloves and going to have a good opportunity up top is a guy that you might want to look at as well. Maybe even as just a bench loop in the first 2 rounds if you can afford to.
So you see him taking over Josh Brown's spot at the top of the order?
I think so. Yeah. Okay. Like they've got a couple of holes up the top now, obviously with Josh Brown, with no Usman, no Marnus. There's some spots for grabs. So I think it's going to be Jimmy Peirson. Yeah.
I really like that shout. We saw last year, I know Brisbane won the final, but there were times where Josh Brown was batting with Colin Munro and really struggled to rotate the strike. I think Jimmy Peirson fixes that. For
sure. And also, Jimmy Pearson's older. He's more experienced. He's had captaincy experience. He's a leader amongst the squad. So I feel like he's just a better fit to be up the top with Colin Munro as well. And yeah, we'll talk about obviously Josh Brown when we chat about the Renegades, but some definite concerns there alongside what you've just mentioned in the fact that he does struggle to turn over the strike. So we'll see how he goes over at the gates. But mate, the cheapie that's probably flying under the radar for me the most to start the season is Matt Renshaw. This guy's like 68K. You know, that is incredibly cheap for a guy of his caliber who can also, just because he's a bat only in Supercoach, doesn't mean he won't bowl. There's every chance he could bowl his offies as well.
He has done in the past, hasn't he? Those little offies, you know, and he's taken wickets in the past too.
He has. They usually use him up top, to be honest. They use him to open the bowling and get through a couple of really quick overs. So maybe they look at that tactic again. I don't know whether they do. It just depends on the conditions, I'm assuming. But you know, obviously the Gabba has bigger boundaries, so you know you can't afford to play an extra spinner or use Matt Renshaw for a couple of overs if they need to. So I do like him as a cheapie option. I'd probably still look a little bit cheaper than that if I really wanted a number 3 or number 4. I'd maybe a Nick Maddinson or someone like that maybe presents more value. But and we've even got Mackenzie Harvey. I'm sure we'll be talking about when we chat about the Renegades. So probably again not a guy I'd look at, but really in the conversation, isn't he, for cheapie options to start?
Yeah, he is.
Mate, who are we not looking at?
Pains me to say it, but Xavier Bartlett at 202K. Going through the Brisbane Heats list, they've probably got 3 of the top 10 best all-rounders in the competition in Walter, Nessa and Bartlett. He will bowl death. He will bat at, 8? He's not a bad fielder, but at 202K, he played exceptionally well last year. I think he drops in price, and when they do hit their double in round 3, depending on how he's going, he may be a player that we target then.
Yeah, I think as much as I'd love to have him, and the role is fantastic. We talk about the role always being trumps in BBL Supercoach, and his role is probably one of the top 5 roles in the comp, along with guys like Glenn Maxwell, Daniel Sams, etc. But I just think at 202K, there's way more value out there than paying 200 for him when he doesn't have a double for 3 rounds. Now, he's priced at a 67 as well, which is very realistic, I think. For a guy that bowls death, he could pick up a couple of wickets in the death, and he can hold a bat too. Remember, he did play as a batsman only in grade cricket and a few games for Queensland from memory as a batsman only.
Too. Yeah.
So he can definitely hold a stick, but obviously his primary role is to bowl the new overs and the death. So great option. Hopefully round 3, he's a guy that we're going to be getting into the team at 170, 160K would be definitely my preference for Xavier Bartlett.
Bloody oath. But as you just said, mate, I want to touch on it. We can't really go I believe you can't go Xavier Bartlett, Glenn Maxwell, and Matt Shaw. That's north of 700K, 750K. You're going to have to buy a lot of cheapies to fill out your squad.
You will. Unfortunately, that's just the way that it is this year. You're going to look at Maxwell and Short potentially, and then you're going to have to look at sub 160K for the most part for the rest of your squad. But the good thing is there's plenty of value out there this year. So we'll be able to find players at that price to keep us interested. But yeah, we'll be talking about the Heat much more in round 3. But that'll do us for this one. Guys, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. If you're listening on audio, hit follow, leave us a 5-star review if you like the content. We would really appreciate your support, and become a Patreon Insight Unlimited member if you like the content and want a little bit more from us or want to access us personally. We'll answer all of your questions there. We've got plenty more team previews coming up, mate.
Can't wait to see the Hobart Hurricanes in our next episode. Proudly brought to you by Ryan from Astute Newstead.
Yep. Hamo and the Standard Squeeze are doing an amazing job for us. OG sponsors of the show. And we thank them for their support as well. All their links and their websites and their inquiry forms are in our description below. If you want to get in touch with them, you want to sort your home loan out, or you want to drink responsibly and conveniently, they can do both of those things, which is great.
Okay.
Awesome. Guys, that'll do us. That'll do us, guys. We'll see you next episode. We'll catch you then.